What would you do if a wild Karen decided to ruin your vacation by being extremely annoying? Well, these folks had to deal with a handful of entitled Karens during their visit to Buckingham Palace. And they got so out of hand that even the royal guards had enough. Surely seeing a Karen act pretty dumb in public would leave you speechless, just like this lady right here. I mean, it's high time that people should realize that it's strongly prohibited to grab the royal horse's reins, but Karen here has something else in mind. And what does she get? Well, a pretty loud shout from the royal guard telling her to back away.
Get off the road! Go ahead, go ahead. I want to get upstairs. Right, hang on. Can't touch your reins. You're not allowed to touch these.
Another pretty common mistake Karen makes around royal guards is coming a little too close. But for this Karen right here, there's no such thing as personal space, so she's so close to the guard for a photo op. And as protocol dictates, the royal guard stomps on the ground to show Karen some boundaries. If you thought Karen and Kens were just a bunch of old geezers with nothing else to do, well, wait and see these teenagers. The royal guards seem annoyed that these kids are entering the arch without permission and shouted at them to get out. The kids seemed to be shocked at first, but they did end up just giggling after the guard went back to his post. Our next Karen is one of those who think that being touchy with royal horses is fine. You can clearly see the sign behind her saying that these horses could be aggressive, but she still let her intrusive thoughts win and pull on the horse's reins. But after the royal guard pulled the rein away and shouted at her, Karen still went for that photo and pose. These next guards needed to deal with a bunch of tourists who went into the arches when they were not allowed to. What did the guard do? Well, shouted at them and calmly went back to his job. Up next, Ken thought that feeding the royal horse with mints was okay. The royal guard needed backup on this one and called the police. Ken was obviously not happy about getting reprimanded and even argued with the authorities as if he was the one wronged in the situation. The police were extremely calm when dealing with his tantrums. If it was me, I would have already had him handcuffed for violating rules and causing commotion in public.
Hey mate, stop feeding them, please. Stop feeding. Stop feeding. Please, please. Please, please. Hands down.
Next up, this man was going in for a goofy photo, but it went downhill. The guy was doing different silly poses in front of a royal guard and even found it funny, but what he was not expecting was the police who approached him. He was then told to stop what he was doing and ended up walking away.
Tourists told to stop being disrespectful to the Queen's Guard by armed police.
עכשיו תסתכלי ישר ותן נסיגה. שמאלה. שמאלה, תסתכל שמאלה.
לא נעים לי ממנו.
בסדר, אוהב את זה. שמאלה.
אחי, אני מסתכל עליו כבר.
תסתכל על המתנס.
They're taking the piss.
תסתכל שמאלה. לא. יש לנו את זה.
לא, בוא נעשה את זה, אחי, יש פה מלא אנשים, זה טוב.
Yeah, take them.
בוא נעשה.
הוא נראה לי קצת כועס עליהם. לא, יש.
בוא נעשה בקטע, יש פה מלא אנשים.
לא, אני גם...
יש פה חיילים, זה פעם בחיים, לא יודע.
Here's another Karen who took being touchy to another level. At first, the lady was posing casually and maintaining a good distance from the royal guard, but all of a sudden she decided to touch the plume on the back of the guard's head. Upon realizing this, the guard gave the lady a sharp look and turned away.
On the back of the king's guard's head and gets a close shave.
יש פה איזה 5-6.
Next is Yellow Pants Karen, who thought that touching the royal horse's reins was a good idea for a photo. But before she could take her photo further, the royal guard shouted at her, making her back away. However, for Karen, the show must go on, and still took another shot for the photo in the end.
Get off the reins!
It looks like Yellow is just another sign of a menace, as another Karen dressed in a yellow kilt got on the royal guard's nerve while taking a photo. As this lady was getting a little too close for his liking, the royal guard screamed right in her face, telling her not to touch him. Karen was too shocked to do anything, just walked away without taking the photo.
Do not touch the king's guard.
If you thought that Karens knew what not to do around royal horses, well, you're wrong. This lady was posing with her hands on the royal horse's rein. At first, the royal guard called her out to get her attention, but when she didn't move, nudged her using his foot. After that, Karen got the message and continued posing with her hands kept to herself. One thing that most people don't know is that royal guards never change their route for you. You either get shouted at for blocking the way or get walked over. This man right here was unlucky enough to get two at the same time. What's more infuriating is that he even found it funny that he almost got cut by the royal guard's sword and ended up in the ambulance instead of back at home. If you ever imagined how many Karens these royal guards need to deal with each day, well, look at this one right here. It's looking like a hectic day for the royal guards as tourists swarm in and out of the arch. People also squeeze their way to get a photo with the guards. And because it's super chaotic, the guards were just sandwiched between the tourists and were touched by them. Well, what did this guard do? He walked out and left his post, maybe too irritated by the crowd. Our next Karen was too caught up in recording the royal guards that she dropped her phone. She was having a time of her life trying to take a video of the royal guards marching. Maybe she had thought the guards would adjust to her and make a detour around, but nope, they just went ahead and bumped into her as they walked by.
King's guard bumps into tourist.
Another Karen gets the nudge for coming in too close to a royal guard. She was posing for a photo with the guard when she got a little too close and bumped into the guard's shoulder. In response, the royal guard nudged her to the side, creating a distance between them.
Another tourist gets the elbow.
Most of the time, royal guards keep their cool while dealing with the dumb people in their areas, but this one right here was already on the edge. As tourists crowded this royal guard's post, some of them crossed the line in front of the post, creating a dangerously close distance between them and the royal horse. We all know that Karens don't respond well to yelling, which is why the guard just decided to charge them with his horse instead. This next Karen was eager to pose with a royal horse that she decided to not follow the protocol. She didn't even bother looking at the royal guard and asking for permission as she started stroking the horse's face. She then went on to grab the reins, prompting the guard to pull it away and shout at her. Well, if you had thought you'd seen the worst karma received by Karens as possible while interacting with the royal guards and horses, you need to see this one. There's no clear reason why the event happened, but many people claim that the lady leaned on the horse way too close and that's why the horse backed away, making the lady fall to the ground. Whatever the reason may be, surely Karen will remember this moment and stay away from horses from now on. What's the point of warnings if you don't listen to them? Well, this royal guard ended up teaching Karen the lesson of always keeping your ears open, especially around those royal horses. This lady was taking a photo and striking a pose for the camera. Then she grabbed the reins of the royal horse, making the guard warn her not to hold on. But Karen did not care, so the guard shouted once again and charged to get her attention. This time, Karen got the message.
Don't hold the reins!
Here's another example of a Karen who doesn't listen. This lady was so excited to take her photo, she went on to straight up grab the royal horse's reins. The royal guard angrily shouted at her, making her back away, but she didn't stop there. She went back in for another photo attempt, but the royal guard shouted at her, and she went off for good.
Do not touch the reins! Stand clear! Stand clear!
I think some people think that royal horses are mere decorations outside the palace that they can just casually touch, but this Karen was reminded that royal horses will not hesitate to launch at you if they get irritated or feel violated. Luckily, she walked away before the royal horse could get physical.
We came out, that's what they were waiting for. They could obviously help you first now.
This next Karen went crazy after the royal guard allegedly broke her arm. You can see Karen standing too closely with the royal guards and the horse while two are having a conversation. No one knows why she was standing that close, but as the royal guard walks away, he shouted at her to make way and bumped her arms. The lady then waved her Pringles at the royal guard, hitting him in the process. You can be the judge of what happened. It looks like the royal guard did not break her arm at all. Instead, she was the one who purposefully swung her arm toward the royal guard in an attempt to make it look like he hit her. Up next is this Ken who got a little too friendly with the royal guard. As this man was posing with him, he put his hands around the guard's backs casually as if they were besties. The guard didn't like it at all, shoved him away. He was clueless about what he had done, and that's just simple plain ignorance, right? Our last one is another rude tourist who does not know boundaries. These two royal guards were peacefully talking when Ken decided that it was the best time to take a photo. He even squeezed himself in between guards and did not listen when one of the guards nudged and shouted at him to get away. Just classic.